What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here in this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. All right, guys, well, we had our first town hall of the year of 2024 for Splinterlands. There was a lot in it, a lot to talk about. I'm going to try and keep this, as concise as possible. Obviously, don't want it to be a significant percentage of time in terms of like what the town hall actually is, but there's just a lot to discuss. So you can see here, I got my 5 biggest takeaways. I got a bunch of bonus things, which we'll just touch on at the end. And let's start with this. So if you're new to the channel or new to just this series, every time we have a town hall, this is not a summary, right? So this is just the 5 things that stuck out to me the most that I want to talk about. And obviously there's a couple more things that we can discuss here. So that being said, before we jump in, I said this during the live stream reaction stream that I did yesterday, and I'm going to say it again now. There was so much talked about. And what it did was give me flashbacks to end of 2022, early 2023, specifically the first town hall of 2023. And I want to call this out just for all the haters and the skeptics and the fudders. I just want you to know, I see you, I hear you, I understand, right? There was a lot of stuff discussed in this town hall, just like there was in 2023. And my guess, and I said this yesterday, my guess is that most of the stuff is not going to get implemented either this year or maybe not even ever, because it's just ideas. So as we go into it and as we go into the rest of the year, my expectations are very, very tempered. Maybe you can call it being jaded, whatever it is, right? But that is just where things are at. So for all the haters, fudders, whatever, I hear you. Now, let's go ahead and move forward and actually get excited about all the things that they talk about, right? So, okay, so here we go. Let's jump in. First part, and okay, this will be the last negative thing that we have. No real updates on land or Soul Keep. So for people wondering, there just was not anything mentioned. Now that doesn't mean that they're not working on it, but there's just no tangible updates. And the fact that the releases as well as town halls are now 2 weeks apart, meaning that we're not going to get any more town halls in January. And we won't get a release until like close to early to mid-February. This is just where the state of things are. Now with Soul Keep, I've written that thing off, right? So I have no idea what's going on there. And whenever something happens, I'm sure the team will talk about it. But at this point, it obviously still is disappointing that even, a month later from the previous town hall, they still have not made any, at least progress that they can talk about. Maybe they've made progress in the backgrounds, but it sounds like Matt is still working out legal things with trying to get a company on board. But I don't even know if they're at that stage. It's just legal things. So maybe there's not even a company there. Maybe they need to clear up some legal loopholes before they can even start approaching companies. I have no idea. That's just kind of where things are at. With land, it was a little bit more disappointing. But the takeaway here, with there not being any updates on land, is something that I kind of joked about in a provocative question in the reaction stream yesterday. I'm wondering if land is not as much a priority as the new player experience, or as Matt said and Nate kind of echoed, the player experience. They really want to expand upon that and make it something awesome so that they can move forward and do some marketing efforts, do some outreach, do some bridge building, right? Literally and figuratively with other communities and other blockchains. They can do that at some point, maybe in the second half of 2024, early 2025, hopefully when we are in the throes of a bull run following the Bitcoin halving in April, or at the end of April. So again, land not even being talked about. And when Matt was asked, do you know when things are happening for land, right? Whether it's Soulbound being unlocked or the titles or grain, obviously we know that the grain LP is going to be the first thing, but Matt just didn't have any idea. And again, he could just be in that role now, similar to where Aggie was, where he's just super high above it. So he's not sure what the, what the progress of it is, but clearly it was not a priority for just being discussed on the town hall. So there was no, there was nothing like that could or should have been presented in the town hall is what I'm trying to say, which again, just goes back to the fact of the matter that maybe we should be bracing for further land delays, might I say. But if you're okay with land delays in favor of improving the player experience overall, and we're going to get to that in a second, I don't know. I think I could actually get behind that, right? And so for people who didn't watch the stream, the provocative question I asked is, would you be okay with no land 1.6 or 2.0 development until the second half of the year if it meant that we got all of the cool player experience things that the team talked about? So let's actually jump into that. Now, number 2, This is probably the biggest thing for me, the biggest takeaway, because I know that Matt had been thinking about it, and clearly they're still thinking about it because they haven't actually, it sounds like they haven't thought through all the implications, but they've been having a lot of conversations, which is always where these things start. But a ranked play overhaul. We've been asking for it for some time. And Matt said that, the way that things have gone over the last 5 years is usually they'll just put Band-Aid fixes or tweak something here or there. And over time, that actually makes for a much more inefficient system. So rather than do that, why not recreate something from the ground up? And the biggest idea that he put out there, which is scary for some people, but I thought it would be cool at least, is to remove like league or level caps, meaning that it's all based on rating. And your rating is no longer going to, there's going to be a standard like rating increase or decrease based on, your wins or wins or losses. And so you would no longer have this, position where, oh, okay, I'm at 28, I'm at 27.99, right? Just the tip top of gold. I can actually go above that and then choose to not advance, right? You would automatically go up into diamond or whatever league it is, right? There would no longer be these caps that you would essentially be able to choose not to go up. You would just automatically go up, and you would be able to then play people around your rating. So even if you were in high gold, you could be playing people against low diamond, right? So gold 1 versus diamond 3. And so therefore, you'd be able to just play whatever cards you wanted to in any battle, which is kind of crazy to think about, but I love it because it solves a couple of things, right? So the squatting and leaderboards and all that, like, again, I think that leaderboards need to get reworked. If we just completely wipe it away and the team comes up with a new way to do leaderboards, fantastic. But the other big thing, and this is going to be probably more so for the newer player experience, is it solves the problem of bots in bronze or just a very, very limited meta in bronze. Because what ends up happening is you'll get new players coming in, and I've talked about this before, right? Where new players coming in, and even if it's not in wild, but in modern, where hopefully we don't have any bots, you get into a situation where the meta is just very defined by a couple of different combinations or cards or whatever. And that's been the case, right, throughout history, where certain cards or whatever will be able to do it. Now, obviously, gladiators are a big part. And if you're a new player, you don't have gladiators or soulbound reward cards, right? So at this point coming in, if you're a new player, you just have to like fight with one hand tied behind your back because you're late to the game. But if you wanted to, with this new system, you would actually be able to buy or rent higher level cards. You'd be able to play a max level deck with your rating of 100. So therefore, you'd be able to just rip through bronze because you had invested in, right, either bought or rented a max level deck that should be able to just beat down on bronze or silver level decks and get you through. So that idea of, people just being stuck in this cesspool or this pit, a bottomless pit of bronze and never being able to escape, you'd be able to do so much more easily now. Of course, you'd either need to have a very good skill set, which is what you needed before, but now you'd also be able to rent cards that would be able to get you out, right? And it wouldn't just be limited to like, the past where it's like, oh, okay, let me just rent Lamacron and Jotun and go from there, right? That's at least how I got out of bronze previously. Now it's like, okay, well, I could just rent like a silver level deck, and that should be able to pound on all of the bronze and, level 1 starter cards that people have. So I really like the idea of rank play overhaul. I'm going to need to hear more about this, and I know that the team will probably need to consider how SPS staking is going to work on the spectrum and how SPS rewards are going to work on the spectrum. And one of the major things that I was calling out last night on the stream was, if the reason I'm playing in gold 1 right now is because my multiplier for SPS gets me more SPS per win in gold 1 than I would be getting in diamond 3. And so they're going to need to remove that incentive for me to stay in gold 1. And I hope they do, right? Because I do have some higher level cards, and this would then push me to start maxing out certain cards, because it's like, you know what? I'm spending most of my time in diamond anyway. Even though I'm in gold, sometimes I'm in high gold, right? Gold 1, I still go up against diamond level cards. So therefore, gold as a league cap would no longer exist. I would just be playing people around that rating. And I think that would really drastically change all of the ways that, a lot of exploits that are in the system. I'll say this. I'm not smart enough to have thought about all the implications, what the negative side effects of this would be. So I'm not saying that it's a perfect system. All I'm saying is that I'm actually kind of excited that it's just being rethought in such a radical way. And hopefully, as a community, we can come together, the team can come together with the community and try to find out where any of these exploits or issues would pop up beforehand, like ratings inflation, things like that. Again, like I said, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm just saying that I like the fact that they're thinking very big with this, because that to me would represent something that would be monumental for the game as a shift. I mean, 5.5 to 6 years in. So that's probably the biggest takeaway for me. And I don't know when this is going to happen. My hope is that it does happen within the first 6 months of the year if they're trying to really get the new player, or we'll just call it the player experience, up to par by that point in time. And really the deadline for me, and again, this is not, I'm saying the deadline for the team, but the deadline for me for Splinterlands to really turn that corner is going to be post Bitcoin halving, which is about 3 months away at this point. So again, if we can get there in the next 3 to 5 to 6 months, or by the second half of the year, I think that'd be awesome, right? So now going with that, well, let's jump down to number 3. Nate gave a bunch of fantastic information, and again, this was all with the caveat from him and from Matt that they don't even know if and when this stuff is actually going to get implemented into the game. But cosmetics and the player experience, right? So you're going to be this battle mage. You're going to have a home, right, that you can customize. You're going to have an avatar that you can customize. When the battle screen pops up, it's going to show your avatar versus someone else's avatar. Rooney will probably play into that at some point because you can use your Rooney as your PFP. So there's a lot of things that they want to do to make it feel like a real game. And that's awesome, right? That's awesome because that emotional connection, which Nate always talks about, is severely lacking. Like, we're all here because we like the game, the meta's fun enough, and we make money, right? So let's be real. But the ability to create something that is uniquely yours, that represents you in game, I think is understated. It's underrated, at least in gaming. And I think just adding something like that, where we might not think too much about it, simply because we just never had it. I think once it's there, again, I'm not saying that's going to draw in millions of people, but I think it will help people to feel a little bit more connected to the game from an emotional level, not just logically financial, this is the right decision because ROI dictates this, or this is not the right decision because ROI dictates that, right? It'll be you know what? I just want to play. It just looks cool, right? To have my own avatar there. Again, I'm not saying it's the end all be all, but it does add some value. And as long as it's not going to take, too much time or too much effort, I think that it's worthwhile for the team to pursue it, to make the game much more appealing and emotionally immersive for new players or just players in general. So that's 2 and 3. They're kind of combined. Now, number 4, we did get a little bit of an idea of when we can expect Rebellion Soulbound reward cards, and that would be middle of... this is... I made the same mistake yesterday. I said mid-2020. It's not mid-2020. It's mid-2024, so about 6 months from now, right? So hopefully July of this year. Now, that'll also mean you'll be able to unlock your Chaos Legion Soulbound reward cards, but we're going to get to that in a second because that's the fifth point. For Rebellion Soulbound reward cards, it sounds like that they're working on it now. Call Me Tim is starting to figure out, cards and metas and all these different things. So that's when we can expect it. I think that it would actually be a good shift if they are able to do that right around the time that all of their new player experience stuff is done, or just player experience stuff is done. And then we can shift into a point where it's just okay, let's call in new players because now there's new reward cards that you can go in and start earning, right? It'll be almost like a mini chapter within the, I guess we'll call it within the core set launch, right? So I guess what I'm trying to get at here is maybe we can turn this into a couple of different chapters. So let's say we go 18 months with a core set release. So Rebellion comes out, I know it came out in December, but we'll just say beginning of 2024. Then you have the Rebellion Soulbound reward cards that shake up the meta in mid 2024, right? Maybe July. Then actually, even though I'm thinking that we get a mini set later this year, I was thinking September, maybe you actually push that to January of 2025, right? And so all of a sudden, it's just every 6 months, we're getting kind of a new meta change, and we get that mini set, right? So we get the core set, the Soulbound reward cards, then the mini set, and then, right, summer of 2025, we would get a brand new core set, right? Which, again, would rotate Chaos Legion out. And some people might say, oh, well, if you're going to launch a mini set, that, the life of that mini set just pretty much lost a year. And you're right, it did, right? But again, you don't need to buy the mini set. So it's going to be what it's going to be. And maybe they don't do it the same way that they did with Rift Watchers and Dice in the past. I don't know. I'm just saying that would kind of make sense for me, because then at least every 6 months you would have these chapters of which the meta would change, new cards would enter the landscape, right? And I'm not including any kind of promo sets or burn events or whatever the case is, but or promo sets, promo cards through burn events. But again, I kind of like the idea of that cycle, because it would make for a nice turning of the page in the middle of the year if they can knock out all the other player experience stuff. Now, getting around to the costs of cards, I love this. I love the fact that Matt is taking such a hardline stance on it, because it makes sense, and he's really trying to solve the problems that happened with the Chaos Legion set, right? So not just core, but the entire set. So obviously there's just way too many cards out in the ecosystem for the Chaos Legion set. Rift Watchers is probably the only thing that actually is holding its value decently well, simply because there weren't that many packs sold. With the Chaos Legion core set, we saw way too many sales that just pumped. Well, it wasn't just sales. It was also incentives, right? People kept cycling packs because of the way the airdrops work. So the conflict system, which is actually going live. Sorry, I didn't even put that on here, but the conflict system is kind of coming around to that and shoring that up. But the other side is the reward cards. I mean, we just had so many reward cards that were coming in for essentially like zero value, right? They were just being printed endlessly, and now they're a drag on the entire economy. So the way that Matt is looking at that is, anytime a card comes into the ecosystem, there should be a standard cost across the board. Now, Soulbound reward cards are interesting because you can get them, and the value that they have, if you never spend $1 on them, is that they can help you earn more, right? They can level up your collection without actually being a tangible financial asset. Now, if you want to turn it into a tangible financial asset, then the cost of making it real becomes something that needs to be considered, which is obviously what we're talking about when unlocking Soulbound reward cards. But that cost, he wants standardized across the board. So looking at Rebellion, he was saying, if you look at, the Rebellion and the average amount of CP you get and the cost of like a Rebellion, Rebellion pack, it's really like 18x the collection power. So let's just to make it easy, let's just make it like 20x the collection power. So 20 times 5 is 100 DEC, which is roughly 10 cents at peg, right? So that will create this kind of like level, which is significantly more expensive than like the penny cards that we're seeing both for Chaos Legion rewards and Chaos Legion core. So I just like the fact that if you want to turn them into cards and you want them to start flooding the ecosystem, right? Coming into the ecosystem as tangible assets, rather than just being soulbound to your account, they're going to cost a certain amount of money. And again, I know people will look at that and, there's going to be a radical shift away from how things have been done in the past, but we've seen those things get exploited to hell. And so I think that the team taking this focus is going to be crucial. And I haven't made a video about this just because I know it's going to get too much. It's going to be too spicy for some people. But, my thought process is like everything outside of SPS should be soulbound in a sense, right? Where it's just like the play to earn aspect should be you earning SPS. Everything that you do in the game helps you earn more SPS, right? But again, that's a conversation we might not be ready for. So I like that he was saying that you'd be able to get some kind of discount using vouchers, so that adds some voucher utility. But ultimately, I just think that this is a good direction for the team to go. I don't know when they're going to finalize those numbers, but he did say we're thinking higher, right, than the 2, 4, 6x that people were talking about. They are thinking higher, and then have some kind of discount with vouchers. Okay, so that is the 5 main things. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Again, bunch of bonus items. So conflicts are going live this upcoming Tuesday. That probably should have been one, but we've talked about that quite a bit. Conflicts going live. Conflicts. Oh, this is interesting. They're talking about how conflicts may become some kind of new game mode, PvE or, passive game, idle clicker, whatever it is, where you just start staking cards and maybe getting cool things in the future. So I just like the fact that they're future-proofing this. That's pretty cool. The conflicts guarantee. So this is a new thing that's been added. For every 200 chances you get, and I think for each chance, it's going to require like 100,000 like points or whatever, right? So, and we'll do the math in another video. That will equal 1 guaranteed card. We were looking at the math yesterday. I think you need to spend like $300. If you have $300 worth of cards right now, that would get you the appropriate amount of CP that you get like 1 guaranteed chance, or one guaranteed card. Again, you'd still need to buy. That doesn't include the wagon cost though, so just keep that in mind. Rage stats were revealed. Did that in a separate video, but just in case you missed it, you can go check that out. Rage is going to be the first. It's like a 16 mana dragon card for the first conflict airdrop. This is interesting, and I'll probably talk about this a little bit more. But Matt was talking about how there should be more delegated authority for the DAO manager or just somebody to make the decisions. This was in response to tournaments and how we need to get a tournament overhaul, and instead of the community just chiming in because somebody's always going to be unhappy, we should just really give that authority to someone. We should delegate that authority, maybe Claiborne, because I think he's doing a good job. We should delegate that authority to someone to just make the decision, and then of course trust them to make the decision and then to tweak it as needed moving forward. But tournaments have not changed, literally have not changed in the 2.5 years since SPS has come out, and I think that's terrible. Just to be honest. Somebody asked why the team is burning SPS, and I'll be honest, I did not understand Matt's answer. He said that right now buying DEC would cost them money, and therefore therefore it just, I guess, didn't make sense. The team doesn't have the capital to go and buy DEC off the marketplace, so they're just burning SPS, which makes me wonder if they're just burning their own SPS. Now, I always thought the only reason that they should be operating, let's put it this way. The only reason that their DEC allocation should be going down is because credits are coming in and they need to pay DEC out on the back end. So technically they should be taking those credits and then buying the DEC on the back end, right? So that would help. But what it sounds like, and this, I don't want to speculate too much here, but what it sounds like is that they're taking those credits and then they're using that to pay the bills, right? They're using that to pay the bills. And so therefore, instead of taking that money and buying credits, buying DEC or even SPS off the market and then, burning it or sending it out, they're just burning whatever SPS they have right now. So again, I don't know that makes sense. I mean, I would want the team to be a large holder of the SPS, but maybe we'll need to get a little bit more clarity. All I know is that when I listened to it, and I listened to it twice, it didn't make sense to me. So if somebody else heard something different, please let me know. Let's see. Solana Bridge. Somebody asked about, bridging to other blockchains, specifically Solana. And Matt talked about, maybe doing that in the second half of the year after the player experience had been improved. So that's what gives me this idea of a 6-month time frame, or shortly post Bitcoin halving time frame, where I think the team wants to get all of this player experience stuff done first, and then they're going to start doing more outreach. But I would love to see a Solana bridge, just because even though I don't do much on Solana, or I don't hold a lot of Solana, I just know that there's a lot of really cool development happening there. There's a huge community, and just making onboarding easier from there would be fantastic. And then finally, the burn event, which is something I was really looking forward to hearing more about. They haven't really given much thought, just being honest with you guys. Matt's like, yeah, I really want to do it in Q1, but we just need to think through how all this stuff's going to work. And so maybe it's not going to happen in Q1. That was literally, or I'm just paraphrasing how he was approaching it. So at this point, I don't think a burn event's going to happen in Q1 unless something changes dramatically. So if you were hoping for that, as I was, it's not going to happen. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they need to just rethink all the other stuff, and maybe they should be prioritizing player experience and all that, but it is what it is. So that is all 5 items, plus a bunch of bonus items. Like I said, I'll probably go into a little bit more detail on some of these other things in separate videos, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Otherwise, I will catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.